CMC, they're covered by a second, so that'll be a fun battle. Ken Owens, a little scrappy there as he basically cleanly claws his way to the front and whenever he can near the front. Bob Denton, though, not too far away from anything happening there between the top three.
Yeah, we were just seeing there Eric and Cameron McIntyre battling for position, a BMW versus a VW TCR. I'm really excited to see that one race here, I believe. So there's going to be so many mini battles out there at the same time. But now drivers have their tires up to temperature. They're finding the rhythm, figuring out which
especially now that the storms have moved through, the track temps are going to come higher because they did drop a little bit. And now that there's actually, there's going to be downforce. There's going to be actual more rubber laid down at the same time. Yeah, now's the time to get out there because things are going to get greasy real quick.
Absolutely. But now's also the time where you need to be thinking about tire degradation and protecting your tires. Once that car starts to slide, it's too late. So now's the time we're going to see who's being smart out there, who's thinking ahead, who's overworking it that's going to maybe fall back later in the race. So really critical time, not just to make up positions, but to also think towards the end of the race happening right now.
Spec3 46, we mentioned that group. Daniel Capaldo, I should say. He is leading over Greg Arsenault. That was the battle that we saw early on. So Arsenault sitting in second place and he's trying his best to see what he can do. Oh, bumping and rubbing there for CMC. Believe that may be for the lead as Team Top Dog Kent Owens and Tom Long, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, that's for the lead. That's for second place, I should say. As Kent Owens doing what he can to try and get back up to that front spot. The 23X, we said Kent Leidick, your leader there. And Kent Owens looks to the inside, makes that pass, but how long will it stick?
He's vulnerable now into turn 3, which is, whoa, going way wide out of turn 2 there. So this CMC class is amazing. You can see he put a blanket over those 5 cars right there. That and Spec3 46, two of my favorite classes. We see Dan, or Danimal as he likes to go by, sometimes leading there. Two of the best classes in the country on the track at the same time. Awesome.
You see Leidick opening up a big gap. That's actually the battle for second place between Owens and Long. That looks like that Long could have it, and wants it. So we'll see that go through. As we saw the old elder statesman Bob Denton hanging back there, and Long opening up a bigger gap through the S's, and that's got to give Leidick a chance to say, you know what, maybe I can get up front, because the earlier that you can get up front, the better chance you have of nobody catching you right there, because it just takes one slight issue for the whole pack to just bunch up in CMC.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's a track that's so hard to overtake on. It's not really a great overtaking spot on this track. It's pretty, I would hate to say the word easy to defend position on, but you can really stack up cars behind you. You can defend well. If you were trying to overtake, let's say, Alonso around here, you wouldn't have much luck doing it. So if you can get by, you can get a gap, you can get a major advantage here.
Working lap number 3, and of course our eyes are on the CMC battle for second place. Last time by it was Ken Owens over Tom Long, but Long with a nice little move to the inside of Owens through turn number 1. Owens was doing his best right now to try and get back up to that second spot. There's Greg Arsenault. We mentioned him a little bit earlier on. He is second place in Spec3 46. He's got a huge gap between he and Capaldo, but again, anything can happen. There's a good battle for fourth between Hagginson and Walker. That's the 72 and the 99X. But there's that in-class battle we're talking about right now, as we're seeing him try and get around the Spec Iron Jeff Fight, the 61. That's a gorgeous looking green that we're seeing there. But we talk about in-class, out-of-class battles, and usually in most series, that's frowned upon.
Yeah. The Mustang had more power, passed him on the straight line, but then Greg's being held up through the S's. So when you're in that sort of slower overall class, there's a bit of an art to when you this. There's ways to communicate one another between classes, and there's also where frustration can boil. So great opportunity to use slower class cars to make a pick to overtake, but then the slower class cars also have to be really smart on where to place their cars so they're not being overtaken in bad spots either.
And you know, it reminds me a lot of the Grand Am GT days where you had Camaros versus Porsches going at it. Camaros were faster on the straightaways, but the Porsches could go deeper and faster through the corners, but they were running the same lap times.
Absolutely. And you've got to take your time to learn competitions. It's a car for a position that has more horsepower than you. So you definitely, I would much rather be the car that's going to be slower through the corners, but has a little bit more power, your life a little bit easier. Battle for position.
Keeping a close eye on the CMC battle for position and across the line. Tell you what, Tom DeLong has laid down the fastest lap of the race for CMCs. He's on 7/10 of a second behind Kent Leidick in the 23X. We'll keep a close eye on that, but yeah, that's got to make your life easier knowing who your competition is, even though they're in a class and you know you're maybe going for. That could mean points in a championship because now you're putting somebody between you and your competitor for what could be a season championship.
Crucial. You know, this is the point of the season where you can really make a run, right? You can start to build a gap in the points, or you can start to make a run and whoever's leading the points. So you always hear about like Scott Dixon, 6-time IndyCar champion. Where does he make his money? He makes it in the middle, the meat of that season where he puts together a run. We just saw that last weekend with him winning. And this is where drivers really want to find that momentum as we switch back to Greg's IndyCar here and see him really attacking through this racetrack.
Well, he's really making good time of this track as we see where he's at time-wise. His best lap of 2:03.8, so he's really doing his best to keep him ahead of Chad Griffith. He's about 6 seconds ahead of the 7:10 of Griffith, but still in a good position to take a podium position. So great to see that early on. We're about 10 minutes into this race. Here's what your top 5 look like overall. David Moore, the 49X, leads Jim Stout. Arthur Stola, 3 of Reeves. Greg Vanucci, you know what? Vanucci seems to get quick every time he's on the course in that Lotus. The 25X in Super Touring 2, the driver out of Iowa, looking really good. And I've got to say, I've known Greg since I started here, that he is quick no matter what track he's at. He just gets out there and just puts the hammer down. And he's got a good gap. He's got a couple cars between him and Nick Smither, who's in second place in Super 2.
This is so fascinating, right? We're also seeing drivers out here. You said it, there's a 2-minute, 2-second lap around here. So even with all the practices, drivers haven't seen every corner that much. They're still learning out there. They're still trying to figure out where their strengths, where their weaknesses, where can they brake later, where can they roll in more speed. So we're not only seeing the cars, the track evolve, but we're still seeing the drivers evolve right now too. So I think we're going to see a lot of surprises here over the next 5 to 10 laps.
Got one car off the course, not sure who that is. It may necessitate a yellow, but looks like they've gotten off in a safe location, so we'll keep a close eye on that, trying to look at some good battles throughout the field, and so far so good. We've been pretty clean and green for the past for the last race. Yeah, I know I have jinxed it, but you know what? Sometimes you need a good jinx to get going. Back to CMC real quick. 7/10 to separate the battle for first, the battle for third. So that'll be interesting to see what happens there in the next couple of laps. What's impressed you so far in this race?
And just jump in here, I think it's actually Greg Arsenault that was now off the track now, running second in Spec3 46, or was, I should say. What's impressed me most has been the battle in CMC. Give it up for these drivers, man. They're 5 long, throw a blanket over them. They're going back and forth. That's the type of racing I love to see, and it's clean. Passes are looking great. They're aggressive. They're decisive. Everything I want to see in racing.
Yeah, and it looks like that. I will agree with you there that Arsenault looks like the car that is off, and yeah, according to time and scoring, that is correct. He's off in a safe location right there by the cutout, so I think that we will probably stay green throughout the race, and that's one thing that's important when teaching a driver about racetrack etiquette is to stay, if something goes wrong, get out of everybody's way so you're not ruining somebody's race.
Absolutely, absolutely. We want to stay green as we go on board here with Jeff. So what's been your favorite part of the race so far over there?
I gotta say, sitting here, I love watching that CMC battle. That's been a fantastic battle. It's been interesting to see what happened there at the start with with Super Unlimited going from Ryan Tyler as your leader to David Moore taking the lead after Tyler. Looks like he may have. Also interesting to note, so David Moore's time in qualifying is a 52 flat. He's actually running a 49.1. That's his fastest time so far. So he's already running faster than his qualifying time, which is interesting. And it looks like you'll have Viper, Porsche, Viper. That's your top three so far in Super Unlimited.
Wow, that's amazing. You'll see that just kind of shows you how these drivers are working this track. What we're seeing here right now.
As we have 14 laps in, no GT5 cars, which is very interesting. But then again, this is a 3-race format. So if you miss one race, it's not too devastating. You can make it up in the next 2 races, which, when I did NASA, we just had 2 races, 1 race a day. I think this 3-race format has been a power move by NASA because you get more track time for your money and you get more racing for your money.
So you're saying I can go home with 3 winner trophies at the end of the...
I'm not just saying. I'm just saying.
Bottles. I won 3 podiums. So I won 3 winner trophies. I'm all about that. A great action at turn 3 this lap too.
Yeah, we're seeing these BMWs with some tight action. Does that look like the 18 is dragging something? We're going to follow that throughout the course, but right ahead of the behind the 18, I should say, looks like a spec iron, and there are those Spec3 46s of Chad, Eric Hagen. Tightening up as the drivers make their way around. They're the S's.
And, I just looked up here and I can see turn 15 in front of me. And I saw the 89 car, little bit of smoke through this fast turn 15 here. I wonder if he's got a little bit of wheel rub or something like that. So something to keep an eye on as the race kind of starts to get down to the final moments here.
Yeah, Ralph Lindacker's. He was in the pits for just a little bit to the attention of his crew. He's back underway, and keep an eye on Lindacker's. There's Arsenal, unfortunately, sitting there in that crossover right after turn 2. But he's well out of the way right now as we see fight. Wow, look at that little wiggle of the hand there in between the S's. And let's talk about that too. Does that come down to car setup, or does it come down to a little bit too fast through the corners?
So I think it's a little bit of setup here, but I'm also looking at his hands, right? You see his right hand moving up on the steering wheel, and then on the left hand, you'll see his left hand move. I actually think, I wonder if he might be inducing some of this oversteer. You often hear drivers say, hey, I need to hold my hands at 9 and 3 o'clock. But it can be hard to do that. Looking at his body position, I wonder if his seating position might be a little too close, struggling to keep his hands at 9 and 3 o'clock, which then make those micro saves so difficult. It tends to lead to overcorrection. So I wonder if some of that's driver-induced based on the seating position I see in that camera.
7 through 11, 12 through 14, 12 through 15, I should say. That's kind of the places where you do want to maybe get a little bit more of a throttle so you can get a kick to set up through there. But it seemed like that there were times where he was moving his hands a little bit too much through those S's.
Yeah, we're now starting to get to the point where the sun's coming out. We've been running quite a few laps. The tires are starting to degrade. We're expecting to see a little bit more slip angle, a little bit more slide in these cars. And that's where it becomes even more critical to be smooth with your inputs. And that's where you really want your hands at 9 and 3 o'clock to be able to make smooth inputs, smooth corrections. And I think we're starting to see a lot of cars start to slide here, start to struggle start to overheat.
That's the expert voice of Deanne Von Molka. I'm Jeremy Scott. This is the Thunder Race, the first one of the weekend. There are 2 more Thunder and 2 more Lightning races tomorrow. You can actually watch those on Race Hero, and that's where I'm watching my timing and scoring right now. You get a whole bunch of races, whether it's NASA and any other series throughout the weekends. Oh, interesting that Greg Benucci's gained 11 places to get up to 3rd place overall. That's very, very interesting. I'm not sure if Reeves in the 133 is having some issues. It looks like he may have had a little bit of an off, but we are seeing some side-by-side action. That is for position in Spec 3, and now we're starting to see American Iron cut their way through that. So that's and that's what's interesting too. You have the faster cars. You gotta have trust in some of these drivers, because we saw that they were side by side for a bit, and the American Iron car was trying to just cut around.
Yeah, and you also, from the American Iron standpoint, hey, they're racing. I've got to be decisive. I've got to time this to perfection. You saw him cut from the inside to the outside. When he moved back to the outside, it could be difficult to know, am I clear, am I not clear? And you often see even pro drivers and pro there.
That was actually the Spec 3 battle for second place between Joey Thomas, John McAvoy, and Taylor Johnson. So props to all of them for stepping up and just keeping everything in line. But looks like McAvoy trying to close in on Thomas. That's for who's going to stay there. That one car facing backwards off of turn number 9. And see what happens here if we go back there. And that car has gotten... That's interesting. It was interesting to see that car facing the wrong way. Of course, when you're sitting there in the S's, you gotta think, oh, hopefully everybody sees me, because you're looking far ahead.
Yeah, typically I like to not be looking backwards down a racetrack. That's not my preferred state.
Oh, that just even when I'm doing sim racing, I'm just like, maybe not. Right there's the 4 of Rich Wagner. Sits 5th in Spec 3. Go ahead, sorry.
I was going to say, in sim racing, I find myself a lot more backwards more often than I do in real life. I do struggle with that, I got to admit.
All right, so I don't feel so bad now. As I feel better about myself in iRacing, and my sim driving coach, I'll tell him, well, so that's the end of it, so I guess I can do it too.
I don't know if I'm the one to follow there. Oh, look at that overtake there. That was great.
Nice little pass there through the S's, and that's a great place to pass, especially if you have that well-balanced car, as everybody playing nicely so far. We're 20 minutes in, so at any time we could see the race end. So now time when you really have to step up and put down that fast lap, catch up to that car that's really close to you. If I'm sold to this, I'm going to try my best to get faster lap time than Reeves in the 133 and get that extra spot in Super Unlimited.
Get close enough. If I can't, okay, let me try to get that better lap time for the grid position now, right?
Yeah, that's what it takes right now. We are in the closing laps, 11 laps complete. More Stout Fiducci, your top 3, so it's Super Unlimited, Super Touring 2. Here are your class leaders in American Iron. It's Bob Collins Jr. did not take the start. Elliott Fisher taking his usual place in the lead. Kate Gutierrez unfortunately pulled off 3 laps ago. We have Leidick, and the 23X leads in CMC. GTS4's Cameron McIntyre, the only competitor in that class. Spec3 46, Dan Capaldo has almost a 30-second lead over Chad Griffith. In that class, Jay Scott in the 23, 2.5 seconds up on Chris Williams in the 55 in Spec Iron. Spec 3, Sean O'Hara with a comfortable lead over John McAvoy, but we're still watching that battle for second place between McAvoy, Thomas, and Johnson. McAvoy making up 5 positions since the start. Super Touring 2, Greg Fiducci. He's the class of the field in Super Touring 2. He has been for years, and no surprise that he is at the lead. And David Moore, your overall in Super with just a handful of laps to go. How are you preparing for this finish, especially if you have a driver that you can call it all race?
Yeah, so you've now been studying the car in front. Where are they faster? Where am I faster? And I'm starting to think to myself, okay, do I have a good run into any of my overtaking zones? I know on any racetrack, where is the high likelihood of an overtaking zone? And if I can set them up, I'm trying to set them up into there. If I can't, I'm just trying to stay as close as possible, consistently, to wear them down mentally. Try to force a mistake here, and really do that, not by one-off big pressures, but by consistent, unrelenting pressure right in their mirror. Every time they look back, I want them thinking about me, so I'm really going to force that car into them. then if you really want to go for it, probably turn 17 as well.
There's a little bit of smoke coming off that last turn with Jeff Fight, so let's keep an eye on that and see what happens. But we are seeing positions all over the place. This looks like that battle we've been talking about with Reeves and Soltis. Last time by was 1.2 seconds. This time by, 9/10 of a second. So that battle for the third spot of the Super Unlimited podium still up for grabs. It's Viper versus Porsche Cayman as they're coming around for the final stages. We see that Viper open up, but let's see how that Cayman handles around the S's.
Yeah, it's starting to heat up here, and I see the starter stand right in front of me. I see the starter reach for the white flag, so we're rolling, they're getting close, so there's not a...
Looks like that is MC cars, but a nice little battle here. That looks like an out-of-class battle. Now we're going to see what Soltis has for Reeves through the S's. Again, it's the 133 Viper ahead of the 14X. And through the S's. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, you can really see them sliding around through the S's there, right? And it's one of those areas of parts of the racetrack that you can maybe get close, but you can't do anything about it. You've got to really try to set them up into this next break zone to turn 12. This is the 37S there, hard, hopefully not bringing out a yellow flag.
I think we're long enough where that may not cause an issue. That is in Spec Iron, so that is David Lacus. Sad to see his race end but nonetheless, we're just a handful of laps away from calling this a race. This has been a interesting race in its own right as well, because we've seen competitors just go by the wayside for strange reasons, but that seems to be the nature of Thunder. You have the higher horsepower cars, so you have a higher likelihood that something can just break in the middle of the race.
Absolutely, you're really stressing the equipment the faster the lap times are, and I see the white flag flagging the last lap. Cars are starting their last lap right now.
All right, white flag is out. David Moore has just taken it. And keep an eye on this battle for third place in Super Unlimited, as we will see if Soltis can catch up to Reeves. About the same distance that they were last time by, but this is interesting as we're watching other cameras around, and I do see that Fight just pointing the knife after traffic, getting out of the way. Don't want to get in the way of those battles. When you're a slower car at the end, we got a spin over there in turn number 2 in the road. So I wonder who that is here in the closing laps. That looks like, that's got to be Reeves. Yeah, that's Reeves. So Reeves,
that's the Viper, yeah.
The 133 Viper of Reeves. So interesting to see that that battle that you're watching is just going to end up going by the wayside. As the checker flag comes out, David Moore is your winner in Super Unlimited. Really uncontested, because once the 99 of Tyler pulled off, it was all Moore the whole time.
Smooth sailing. Those are the best types of wins, right? Nice big gap, no stress, and taking home the win. I always love those.
And what's interesting is Jeff Fight on there once again. Looks like a little bit more smoke than we saw off to the side. So now cars, you got to muscle that car home and hope that you don't have a problem. Nonetheless, Fight with a great race, as he'll bring it home for. He'll bring it home in one piece. That's the good news. There's the 61. As we'll see who finishes ahead of who, if we can confirm that was Reeves that spun off at turn number 3, as it looked like that copper-colored Viper nonetheless was the reason for that. A local yellow, Greg Viducci, comes across the line and wins in Super Touring 2. As Soltis takes the third place in Super Unlimited. So that was Reeves who had the spin cycle. And of course, Cameron McIntyre not too behind. Looks like that he will finish in 5th place, probably at best. Looks like Reeves was able to finish in 5th and muscle that around. Nick Smither finishing 2nd, Super Touring 2. 6th overall, Cameron McIntyre, your winner in GTS 4. Other classes we're watching, see if we've been great battles going to the line. CMC still have the 23X. Actually looks like they may have taken the checker flag, with Tom Long finishing in 2nd place. More battles on the track here in the remaining stages of this race is Phil making their way around course for the final time. Been an interesting race so far, Dion, but great to see that we came away unscathed with yellows.
Yeah, absolutely. I love to see green flag racing, and just a great show from all the competitors here. A great, just fantastic passing, clean racing, which is really tough in these mixed conditions. Really, the story of the day, I thought, was reliability. We came in here talking about it, and we saw it come and really kind of bite some of these drivers here, unfortunately, today.
Yeah, nonetheless, it made for an interesting show as we do see cars making their way down into the pits. And it's interesting to see different series, how they handle pit signs. Some, you keep your hand in there, but others, like here at NASA, kind of point your arm out to show that, hey, I'm coming into the pits.
The drivers waving out to the fans as well, right?
Yeah, the fans, the officials, the corner workers couldn't have done this without the corner workers, by the way. Let's go ahead and give you our top 10, and we'll go through the class winners. David Moore, your overall and super unlimited winner. Second place goes to Jim Snell. Greg Fiducci in third. Arthur Stolas finishes fourth. Reeves in the 133 finishes fifth. Sixth to Nick Smither. Seventh to Cameron McIntyre. A little bit of a former champ car at safety vehicle. That warms my heart.